Hi there, Henry from 911 Virgin, Porsche people in Uxbridge. Welcome to another video. This is the start of a series of videos on this car. What is it? It's a Porsche 911. It's a 964 and it's a 964 RS. Quite a rare car, rather lovely car, and it's one of my cars. The 964, if you remember, first of the new generation Porsches. So it replaced the G series, the 3.2 Carrera Porsches, which were kind of the last of the old Porsches. You can pretty much trace them back to 63 when the 911 came out, and then the 964 took over. So how does the 964 differ from the 3.2 Carrera? The main thing, outwardly, it looks pretty much a 3.2 Carrera, albeit with colour-coded bumpers. But the body shell, totally different. So the 3.2 Carrera has a flat floor, and the suspension was torsion bar suspension. Rod fixed at one end, wheel moves up and down, twist of the rod is your spring. When the 964 was launched, you had a tunnel running down the floor pan, and that did two things. First of all, it enabled you to potentially send drive to the front wheels to make a four-wheel drive car, but it also made for a more rigid body shell, because that tunnel running down, it's like a spine running down the floor pan, helps with rigidity. And the 964 also had normal coil spring suspension, so more traditional. Loads of other bits and bobs. They introduced ABS brakes, power steering, and the 964 felt a much more modern car to drive. So with the advent of the 964, Porsche saw it as an opportunity to develop their race cars. In the late 80s, they had a single make series which was based around the 944 Turbo. They had the 944 Turbo series racing. And in 1990, Porsche launched what was the Carrera Cup. And that's still going to this day. And they took some 964s, they sent them to Weissach, the race department, and they turned them into race cars. They did seam welding on them, obviously roll cages, they changed the suspension, and they built a pure racing 964 Cup car. The Carrera Cup, as I say, was both a national and an international race series, and it's still going to this day. So at a national level, various countries have Carrera Cup where they go racing. In the UK, the Porsche Carrera Cup runs along with the British Touring Car Championship. It's in that circus of events. And then the Super Cup runs with Formula One, and so it travels the world, and so the drivers race on the Formula One calendar around the world. And the 964 race car was the very first car they did that with. So in essence, it's the forerunner to the GT3, because after the 964, they raced with the 993, and then with the 996 onwards, the GT3 Cup cars, so 996s, 7s, 991s, and so on. So Porsche were taking cars off the production line, sending them to Weissach, and making race cars which would live on the track. In 1992, Porsche launched a car called the 964 RS, and this is a Porsche 964 RS. And it was a road car around which, or based around the race car, and in fact they had an upgrade. So in 1992, when the 964 RS came out, they changed the car that was raced. I think you got an extra 10 horsepower, and the vehicles were all based around 964 RSs that went for racing. And so this is, as I say, a 964 RS. I have owned this car quite a while, nearly 20 years. And I used to do a load of track days in it, and then I started racing, and this got kind of put to one side because I then went in my GT3 Cup cars to do racing rather than track days. But I've done quite a few track days in this and driven it around and so on, and it's lovely. It's a nice bit of kit, and they are a really, really great car. The 964 anyway is a good car, so very well regarded within the retro mod world, and essentially when people take a 964 and they kind of retro mod them to try and improve them, what they're aiming for is one of these, for 964 RS. This is where they're aiming to get to. And yeah, it's really nice. So how does it differ from a standard road-going 964? You have engine-wise on one of these around about 260 horsepower. I think this is from memory, somewhere around there. I think the race version was about 270. You can tweak them a little bit and tune them and 5 or 10 horsepower here or there. But essentially, I think they were 260 horsepower. They're a lower car. They've got different suspension, they've got solid top mounts on the suspension. They've been lightened, so the glass in the cars is a thinner, lighter glass, except for the front windscreen. You have an aluminium bonnet, or aluminum for our American friends, aluminium. And incidentally, on pronunciation, I'm getting a few people that are criticising me because I'm calling them Porsche. Now, strictly speaking, that is eine Porsche, but I don't speak German, and I feel a bit embarrassed about trying to pretend I do speak German, so I call it a Porsche. Wrongly so, I'm sure, but please forgive. And but anyway, so an aluminium or aluminum bonnet. You got the wheels. They're a magnesium alloy wheel, so they're lighter, better unsprung weight, takes some weight away. You didn't get soundproofing, you didn't get back seats, you didn't get power steering, you didn't get, what else didn't you get? Air conditioning. You didn't get a stereo. In fact, you didn't really get very much other than the car, and they charged you, I think, £15,000 more for not having all those things. But as I say, the better suspension and so on and so forth. So the net result was a lighter car, and to drive, just lovely. It's a really, really great car to drive, the 964 RS. And they're quite desirable. These are essentially a £250,000 car in the waiting. Some are nearly there, some are not quite there, but who knows where they're going to go. But quite desirable, not that many of them around, and genuine 964 RS is quite nice. But I think justifiably so, because they are such a good car to drive. I think you do have some cars which command high values because of limited numbers, but the reality is the drive is maybe, how usable are they is questionable. But one of these, you can get in it. I've driven this car down to Spa in Belgium and back, and then put it around the track in Spa-Francorchamps, and then driven back in it, and it'll do the road work, it'll do the track work, and just beautiful. When I first got this, I thought it was the stiffest race car on the planet. Having then gone into the later Cup cars, it's quite funny. You then get into this, and it feels, dare I say it, quite a soft car compared to the jump for me was a 996 GT3 Cup car back into this. But it's quite nice in that it does allow a bit of movement, and it's the Cup cars tend to be a bit snappier, and that kind of when they go, whereas with one of these you have some degree of ability to sort of catch it, and it's quite nice in that respect. So my 964 RS I haven't driven this car for probably 14 years, something around there. And I'm going to restore this car. And so we're going to do a series of videos featuring the restoration of this car. What are we going to do to it? We're going to completely repaint the car. Going to keep it the same colour, not going to change the colour, but we're going to paint it, so we'll go down the body shop and we'll see it being painted at various stages. Wheel refurbishment, we're going to have the wheels refurbished. Interior, it's not too bad, probably going to leave that. There's might tidy it up a little bit, but nothing spectacular. The actual chassis of the car, we'll refresh the chassis, we'll look at the suspension, we will then also look at the engine. Now, there's a special feature on this car which not all of these have. If you wander around, you will see this particular car has no engine. You can actually climb in, and I could push it from the inside. And so one of the things we're going to be doing is looking at the engine. I do have the engine for it. It's a matching numbers car. It's the same engine number and chassis number and everything. A little story as to why there is no engine in this car. In 2000 and I think it was 2006, I was doing a 24-hour race at Silverstone, and one of the cars in another class was a 964, and I knew the people that were racing it. And in qualifying, they had a problem with their engine, and so they had a whole team there, and they were going to go racing, and so they needed an engine. So I said, yeah, you can borrow my 964 RS engine. So they came down, quickly whipped the engine out of this, took it up to Silverstone, fitted it in the race car, and then promptly won their class for the 24-hour race. And so it's got a race-winning engine in the car, but the car didn't do the race, just the engine. I got the engine back, and they had allegedly rebuilt it for me, and I never got round to putting it in the car, and it's kind of sat here ever since. So one of the things we're going to do is engine and gearbox wise, we're going to have a look at the engine and gearbox, probably pull those apart. As a precautionary, as I say, the engine, it may well have been rebuilt in 06 and not put back in the car, but I didn't do it, and so we're going to pull it apart, see what's there, and we'll go through that and kind of rebuild it, see what needs doing. And it'd be quite an interesting exercise to see an engine apart, and we'll speak to people. And so I hope that we do a series of videos where we go and see various kind of specialists who are going to be involved in the work, and it just makes for kind of quite an interesting series of videos, hopefully. We're going to do bits of it. You've got a light that's all gone a bit perished and horrible there, so you know, stuff like that. But as I say, we'll kind of go through it and do what's required, and then at the end of it, we'll hopefully have a nice roadworthy 964 RS again. So that should be fun. Interior, it's got the plain door cards with the little ribbon pulls to get you in, and these things, which are window winders. You won't have seen those in the car for a little while, but you didn't get electric windows in these, so yeah, you got the little winders. So there you go. Save a little bit of weight. 5-speed manual gearbox. It's funny, as I kind of poke my head in here, the kind of smell of it, and it's like an old friend in that, I mean, I can remember sitting in here and you on track and you feel a bit hot and flustered, and you know, the kind of smell of being on track, the tyres, the brakes and everything. And it's a very evocative kind of smell being in here, and it's yeah, it's quite nice. I'm quite excited to kind of get it back, and I can just in my head imagine the drive, and so yeah, hopefully my kind of relived memory will be accurate. This has got a little stereo in, but they, as I say, it was a kind of, they were deleted when they left the factory. But you've got very little in terms of, it's just a very basic, actually that's been pulled out, but there is a heater control unit. Obviously someone's nicked the heater control unit, so we'll have to get one of those. But there's no air conditioning, so it's just a hot, cold fan, and ambient air fan in there. Let's have a look in the front. Oh, seats wise, standard 964RS buckets in here, and this sort of multicoloured arrangement is pretty much standard on the RSs. You've got different panels in different colours, and they're actually not a bad seat. They're quite, I mean, you sit very deeply in them, and some of these you could fit roll cages in them. I thought about fitting a cage. You can get a matter roll cage, which would be the standard cage for this. I think I'm going to not put a roll cage in this. I'm going to keep it without a cage because I probably wouldn't use it as a kind of sole track day car, in that, to me, if I was going to go on track, I'd take one of the GT3 Cup cars and use that for circuit work. So I think this is kind of road work with potentially an odd track day, but I think it's going to be more used on the road than on the track. And for me, I just think it's a little bit cumbersome when you're kind of getting in and out and you've got roll cages to contend with, and I suppose that I don't have that kind of novelty feeling, in that to some people, and I hope this doesn't sound sort of arrogant, but you know, the fact they've got a roll cage in their car, it kind of feels special. I don't really need to have a roll cage in a car for it to feel special, and there's no sort of novelty value in the roll cages in the Cup cars, for instance, are fantastic. They've got lovely side impact protection and so on, and these are a relatively crude roll cage. And for the use that I'm going to put it to, as I say, I'm not trying to build a really track focused, the hardest car on the planet. I want this to work on the road, and as I say, so for road use, I think we're going to not put a roll cage in it. So, but yeah, interior wise, seats. It's also got, I don't know if you can film in the back there, this has actually got seat belts in the back. We've got an invoice for at some point when people put seat belts in there, I think quick fitted seat belts. So technically it's not legal to put kids in the back because there's no proper seating arrangement, but someone's fitted some seats belts. We may well take them out and just see how we go with that. Maybe take them out, maybe not. But anyway, let's have a look in the front of the car. As I say, aluminium bonnet, aluminum, and instead of gas struts, you got a little stay there, which goes in on where the suspension turret is. There's just here you can see one of the lug nuts is deeper, so it takes the little post in there. Solid top mounts, you've got those front and rear, so you've got a really solid top mount on there. On the suspension, by the way, you've also got adjustable anti-roll bars on these 964s, so you can make them stiffer or less stiff, and to adjust for different conditions and so on. You have battery cut off here, just a little thing there to turn the battery on and off. And carpet wise, this funny little bit of carpet, again, that's what you got in one of these. You didn't have the full enclosed carpet as you would do in a normal 964. And then there's a spare wheel in there, which obviously you'd take out if you were doing racing and roll cages. Oh, a spider in there, let's get rid of him. But yeah, so that's in there. The screen wash bottle, you've got a smaller screen wash bottle, which is the one that lives inside here. Ordinarily 964s have a much larger screen wash bottle. Again, they've done it to kind of save weight and so on, and that would normally sit inside the front wing, but in this case it's just a little bottle in there. So there you go. So yeah, that's the inside. You've got your little sticker underneath there that tells you your chassis number and various bits and pieces on there, and yeah, tells you about the car. So that's the inside of the 964RS. So a real quick potted history of the 964RS. Ordinarily I'd now say let's get it out on the road, and I'd sit in and we'd whiz out down the road and we'd have a little shot of the front wheel going. We can't because it hasn't got an engine, so it's a slightly difficult car to take for a drive. The next time you see this car will probably be in the body shop. We're going to take it down to the body shop now, and they're going to, well, strip it right down. So glass will be coming out, and we'll start the process to get the bodywork painted. We'll have the wheels off because they're going to go away for refurbishment. So it'll have some little donor wheels on there. And yeah, so next time you see this, hopefully it'll be down the body shop. We'll be filming down there. And yeah, so it's going to be a kind of ongoing series of videos. I don't know how many videos there's going to be, and it will be over quite a period of time, because this isn't something that's going to be kind of restored in 2 minutes. But hopefully it ends up being quite an interesting journey through the restoration of a Porsche in general, and specifically, the 964 RS. And I'm sure we'll find some sort of technical bits and pieces to talk about throughout the series of videos. But yeah, in the meantime, I always say it, but thank you for those of you who have subscribed. I think we're at 2,500, 2,600 subscribers now, which is really great. And it's nice because if you do subscribe, when we put a new video out, you'll get to hear about it. And I'm sure not all of them will be of interest, but some of them will be of interest. So thanks to people who have subscribed. And we get quite a lot of comments on the videos, and I try to respond to the comments as they come in. And it's always interesting hearing people's thoughts, and so feel free to comment if you want to, and as I say, we'll try and respond if we can. Yeah, in the meantime, stay safe, look after yourselves. I'm Henry, we're 911 Virgin, the Porsche people in Uxbridge. Thanks for watching, goodbye.